My name is Eiki Hrafnsson. I'm Icelandic, but I've lived here for a few years. I want to talk today about cloud volumes, NetApp cloud volumes, and I want to also take you through sort of what we're doing in the newly formed Cloud Data Services business unit here within NetApp. And what I hope to bring to the table here is, update your understanding of NetApp and cloud, and hopefully for those who are watching at home also. So when we talk about cloud, I probably should show you my credentials here. I came over to NetApp just about probably 8 months ago. I'm co-founder of a company called GreenQloud. I might have met some of you through the last 7 or 8 years, which I've been traveling the US. But essentially, in GreenQloud, we built a public cloud in multiple data centers. And we help develop some of the core technologies that are used today in private and hybrid clouds. And I've been in this for a long time. This is actually my first day job. I've never done anything else but my own startups. I turned 40 a few weeks ago. And I really love to do software, and specifically automated software. And what we're doing here at NetApp is really exciting to me. And when I say that I'm a data fabric believer, like I say on there, what it really means to me is that I think data management and just data in general is the key ingredient for us to get to that elusive hybrid cloud, multi-cloud application strategy that companies and new development teams are trying to get to. And some of them are getting to it quicker than others, but we think we can really help everybody get to that data fabric that they want. GreenQloud was acquired last summer. It was a 7-year-old company before that. We did some things like participate in the core development of Cloud Stack from the beginning. We've contributed to OpenStack, Kubernetes. We ran a public cloud for 4 years, and which included compute, object storage, and users from over 80 different countries. And about 3 years ago or so, we pivoted the company and started selling the software that we made to build a public cloud. And we call that QStack. Since we did that, we've also been working a lot on application orchestration. So that's where the Kubernetes part comes in. But for NetApp, they because of their cloud strategy, the cloud strategy that I have a feeling that we may have influenced a little bit through the years of talking with NetApp. They saw an opportunity in getting the tools that we have, our products, getting the experienced people that we have, and build a foundation for the next generation of NetApp services. So that's sort of what they were gaining out of it, what we were getting out of it, not just from the acquisition side, but there had to be something keeping us here. So personally for myself, having co-founded the company, I was not in a hurry, to get into a day job. Like, I'm a startup guy. I need to have some degree of uncertainty and chaos, because that's kind of where the fun stuff happens. And, settling down in some boring enterprisey company was not really what I was looking forward to. But to my surprise, and I was super happy when we started talking to this new business unit of NetApp, I was so happy to see that we actually do have a cloud-first leadership here in NetApp, all the way up to the top. And the things that we are sort of starting to show the world now are really exciting from a cloud perspective, because the possibilities that they open up are truly new. And the whole industry has been sort of trying to get to this point where they have an easy way of, or the easy button, to get to the cloud, an easy button to get to performance and all that. So we have a vision, and I'm talking like in past tense, we have a vision in GreenQloud what DevOps should be. NetApp has a vision of what data management should be, and we figured out that by combining our two, we would have these new cloud data services that I'm going to show you a little bit about later on today. So essentially, what became of GreenQloud here is that we are now NetApp Iceland. I actually work out of Seattle, but we're kind of distributed, but the teams have been growing. And now the product that we had before, QStack, its components have become what we call the service delivery engine for future NetApp cloud services. This is a new business unit. I can tell you sort of my perspective on it. We have a lot of ingredients here to make a lot of new cool stuff. And the way I think about it is that, when AWS web services were starting, they started with S3. Then they came out with EC2. With S3 and EC2, you can build everything else. Everything else that Amazon has come out with, basically you can build with EC2 and S3. We are trying to get to that point in NetApp where we create those basic services and APIs that fit into the data fabric view that NetApp has, and will enable us to roll out new services and incorporate third-party services and integrate to really make a large solution and ecosystem around these services that we're building. It's all the goal of helping companies transform. And I'm not talking about like in a fluffy, nice sort of PC way of talking about things. I'm talking about like really doing it, really presenting solutions, figuring out how they need to do it and how we can help, and try to automate that and make that available to the masses. So this business unit is really leading the cloud data services strategy, the sales, and we're working directly and physically with the hyperscalers or the big public cloud providers. So we've got our teams inside like Azure, like AWS. We're working very closely with these providers, the ones that we have announced and the ones that we haven't announced yet. But we're also relying on the sort of excellence of operations from all of the NetApp teams, all of the NetApp business units and the solutions that are already there. But we here in this business unit, we are here to actually support, build, and maintain these services. So we're not just going to pump out some products that somebody tries to install. We're actually going to run it and support it. And lastly, everything we're doing is actually towards evolving the concept of data fabric. And I know data fabric is something that, to me, when I came into NetApp, was like, what is this data fabric? Everybody, like, it's the second word you hear when you come into NetApp. And to me, like, it was a bunch of components that were not necessarily orchestrated fully, right? So right now, with the GreenQloud team, NetApp Iceland, as it's called now, and this larger business unit, I think we've become like the pirates of NetApp. This is the flag that Steve Jobs put up at the Apple headquarters in '82. And I think we might become like the Macintosh team of NetApp, and that's kind of what I hope for, and be that change that NetApp needs. So the data fabric, if we talk just a little bit about that, NetApp's data fabric isn't today a product or a service. However, the concept of data fabric is that it's really concentrated on your data and the services that help you migrate, work with it, and effectively make your company more productive, informed in terms of knowing that your data is safe, knowing that it's following compliance rules, and effectively making your company more profitable. Now, that's all very nice and dandy, but data fabric really has to be like the guiding light for all the services that we build, and that's kind of where we are coming from. And I think you'll see, and the picture might start in your head now that, with our new multi-cloud data services, we are really sort of visualizing and making the data fabric tangible for you. And we're trying to set the stage for the future services and the future of the company in the cloud. So when people talk about data fabric, what they really mean is, all of these products here. This is sort of, coming into NetApp, being here for 8 months, I'm still catching up on all the products. I mean, there's so many products here, and there's so many talented people working on these, but we've got to start simplifying a little bit. And so when you look at our products here, and then you look at the services we'll roll out, you start seeing that we'll pick and choose features from these. We'll make new products. But overall, we're just trying to get to that goal of making things easier for the companies that trust us with their money. So the way to think about it now is that NetApp it's not a storage company, it's a data management company. And without sort of blowing the lid off like all the cool stuff we're working on, let me just tell you a little bit about where we will play in the market. And this goes towards is really what I'm talking about is what we will do in the cloud. So if you look at these categories of data management, these are the categories that NetApp will either directly or in partnering have solutions for customers. First one, data volumes, data protection, data integration and orchestration, data and cloud optimization, and then data security and compliance. And I want to talk about 2 of these today, but just to give you an idea like where our current products fit, you'll see that data volumes, obviously there's the on-prem, but I'm specifically going to talk about the cloud. So data volumes in the cloud mean cloud volumes, the services, and ONTAP Cloud, the appliance, in public clouds. On the data protection side, we've got AltaVault. And if you don't know what AltaVault is, basically it's getting your snapshots backed up in public clouds in S3, among other things. And SaaS backup is a new product, or relatively new product from NetApp that used to be called Cloud Control for Office 365. And there we are sort of making a time machine for your SaaS applications. So if you think about backing up Office 365 because an employee that is leaving the company accidentally deleted, the most important files, right? Since this is a SaaS service, it might have a feature to find out what version we were working on before and get back to that. But since this file has been deleted, you might have deleted all the versions of it, you can't get that stuff back. But that's really just the beginning of SaaS backup, because SaaS backup can reach into any type of application you have as a service. So think about Salesforce, think about, with various different services that you would want to get the data from, not just for backup, but for processing it, for doing something with that. So this becomes a key in that particular part of the fabric. And the third thing there I want to tell you a little bit about is data integration and orchestration. And this is something that's really came about with the acquisition of GreenQloud. Here we are going to talk about applications, specifically Kubernetes-based applications. APIs for orchestration, and then a product from NetApp that's been around for not a long time either, similar to SaaS Backup, called Cloud Sync, which is a file-based sync service that allows you to get data to and from whatever data source. If it's file-based, we can get to it. If it's S3, NFS, CIFS, whatever. All right, we're just going to jump into the couple of things I'm going to talk about. I'm talking about data volumes, and I'm going to talk about applications, orchestration, and integration. So you're probably all familiar with ONTAP Cloud. Does anybody here not know ONTAP Cloud? You probably all heard. Okay, great. So ONTAP Cloud is, or became the softer version of ONTAP, you know, a while ago. So
I think it might be helpful to a couple of people. I think there's probably a couple of people who never, believe it or not, who've never heard of ONTAP.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. Oh, I know how you feel. I've just been here for 8 months. So, all right. So at the core of NetApp, you've got, I mean, obviously NetApp started as a shared file appliance, like solve the problem of file sharing, multiple reads, multiple writes, long time ago. The company is 25 years old, if I'm not mistaken, and having built a public cloud from scratch with, you know, millions of dollars worth of equipment in multiple data centers and running that for thousands of users, I can tell you storage is hard. It's very hard. You can try collaborating together multiple different solutions, and believe me, we tried pretty much all of them. Most of the stuff that we at GreenQloud, when we built our public cloud, was like really cutting edge, and those companies ended up being bought, all of them. None of them worked. None of them worked. And it's only when we started to use NetApp that we really saw some real stability and real performance at the same time. And it's kind of strange that you would get that from an older storage company, because they really have followed the differences and the new types of workloads better than people think. So we're talking about like cutting edge data scientists working here, creating storage solutions that are super high performance, and at the same time are doing like deduplication, so you don't actually need as much storage as you would think, because they can figure out like, oh, you already stored that, I don't have to store it twice. And they do encryption at the same time, so you're already complying with some of the standards like, you know, GDPR or FIPS and things like that. So ONTAP is like the software that's on top of these boxes, but we also made a softer version of that. So you can run ONTAP as a controller in public clouds. So, you know, a lot of people, including me, myself, would ask like, why would I do that? Like, why don't I just use EBS, right? Like, why do I need a storage controller? Like, so the first thing I thought was like, well, maybe it's just for like those NetApp customers, because they need to somehow like get to the cloud, and there's probably a good route. You know, I read about it. There's a snap mirror thing. You can actually like clone data from your site to the cloud if you're running ONTAP Cloud. But then when I looked into it, I saw that wasn't like the only thing. It's actually cheaper and higher performant and more features to use an ONTAP cluster in AWS than to use EBS. Actually, when you get to a certain scale, the ONTAP stuff is just for free. And it's way more performant and got a whole lot of more features than you can ever get from EBS. So it's interesting, and this got me excited, and this kind of probably was the basis for the belief in NetApp that we could do something like cloud volumes. which instead of having a box or an appliance, we've got this service that's on demand, it's API driven, it doesn't look like NetApp at all. Nobody has to know it's NetApp, it just works, and it's super fast, and you get things like instant snapshots, instant restore. These things just don't exist in the public cloud today. Like, you can't do these things in the public cloud, believe me. I've tried, most of you have probably tried some of this stuff as well. So, going from those appliances to, or the physical appliances to the virtual appliance in the public cloud, and now to a fully managed service. And that's what NetApp Cloud Volumes are. So what we're talking about here is file storage, so shared file storage, meaning like you can have multiple servers reading and writing from the same volume, so you don't have to clone data all around. So that's right away, that's a thing that you save a lot of resources. We are offering NFS version 3, NFS version 4, which basically means you add like authentication and stuff on top of that, and SIFs or SMB. So I'll go through after I demo it, I'll sort of go through the use cases so you understand better what this applies to. But a big part of it is, performance. We're talking about super high performance in the public cloud with shared storage, multi-read, multi-write. This hasn't been done before. So
can I ask a quick question there?
Go ahead.
Obviously, there's already NFS for Azure, which is backed by NetApp.
Yes.
This seems to be another NFS and SMB type service as well. So what's the difference between the two in terms of their integration point with the cloud provider themselves?
There's not. You're talking about the same service. So right. NetApp Cloud Volumes on Azure is a native service offered by Microsoft. But in the background, it's us and Microsoft that run the service, and we write the code.
So why the name NetApp Cloud Volumes and then a different name for the service in the provider? Is that because it's their branding?
Yes.
Well, you can buy it decoupled from NetApp, right?
Yes.
If you go buy it from Microsoft, that's you don't want NetApp storage in your data.
Yeah.
No. So let me explain. So there's a name for Microsoft Enterprise NFS that's provided by NetApp. There's also Cloud Volumes for AWS provided by NetApp. Cloud Volumes is the overall name for all of these. And the reason why we have a common name for them is because we are going to be multi-cloud with this. So whether the service is running on Azure, it's running on AWS or somewhere else, I'll show you how we will manage pretty much all of them.
So my SnapMirror could actually be between two different providers in
Yes.
different cloud environments.
Yep. Yeah, so prominent features here, obviously an open API. We've got a RESTful API, but we also got fully integrated native cloud APIs. What that means is that, like, for example, in the Microsoft service, it's ARM-based. So that's, we sit behind Microsoft's API gateway or API proxy, which means that you get all the security features, you get all the limiting features, you get all the billing features. These services are built by the public clouds, not by NetApp. So that's a huge difference as well, because this just fits right into your cloud spend, and you don't have to think about, I have to go and make a contract with NetApp or something like that. You can just view this as super high performance EFS.
So that's the question I was about to ask you. Does that mean EFS is being treated as not being a success, or do you think that's being seen as a very low level product just for a small amount of file sharing?
I can't, I don't have an opinion on that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about EFS later, but mostly on the usability side of it.
But just on the API piece you mentioned there,
Yes.
that's behind Microsoft's Azure API.
Yes.
But when you're doing this in AWS, then it's your own API. You're not, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And actually, it's actually a level above that as well, because when we're doing the AWS one, and subsequently when we roll out more regions and providers, we are talking about having an API that can share API tokens, so access and authorization, between all of NetApp services, not just Cloud Volumes.